Amalekites. Yeah,
Amalekites.
he was part of their bloodline.
So he was an Edomite?
Yeah. And he had two guardsmen that were kind of his little flunkies. They was plotting on killing the king. Mordecai overheard the conversation, basically petitioned to see the king and spilled the beans on them dudes, let them know what was going down. And the affairs were written in the king's book of remembrance. And when it got back to Haman, what had went down, his plan was to knock off Mordecai and all of Israel. That way, what he was planning would never come to fruition in regards to killing the king. It would never be exposed. Right. But it didn't happen that way. You know, like the scriptures say, all things work for the good for Israel. You know, so even with him trying to defuse the situation, it still got recorded in the book of remembrance. Mordecai refused to bow down to this cat and pay homage to him and respect to him, which only enraged him, made him hate him even more. So he goes to the king, asks the king to put down a decree which says that the Israelites were a threat to the nation of the heathens, and we should be put to death on sight throughout the whole 127 provinces that Ahaz ruled over. And
you want me to read that?
I'll just backstory it a little bit, paraphrasing, because I'm sure everybody know the story, but this is just so we don't jump right in where we left off at, because I don't know where everybody left off at. So I just think we just do a quick rundown real quick, then we can get into it. So as a result of it, the king, we all know he was disrespected by his wife Vashti, right? If we go back a little bit further, and he sent the decree to bring all the virgins from the 127 provinces so that he can choose a new wife. Long story short, Esther was the one, all right? The Most High put her in that position specifically so that when this calamity fall upon Israel, she would be on the end. She would be like the inside man.
They would be saved,
right? She can go and petition to the king to give.
And another thing, Esther, her nationality wasn't mentioned, so you know they was really like trying to what is her race? Like they was really trying to push forth the issue with that.
Yeah, but we know she was Israel.
Like, she was an Israelite. Yeah.
Yeah, we know she Israel. So basically, she went in and talked to the king and told her that someone was plotting to kill off her people. She had favor with him. No, he liked her above everybody else. So whatever she wanted, he did for her. So she told him that someone was plotting to kill off her people unrighteously. And the king was like, all right, well, what you want to do about it? And who is this person? She told him that it was Haman, wicked ass, right? Same person that used his king's seal to send a letter across the whole country that they ruled over at the time to kill off all the Jews.
Right.
Now, he stood before the king and tried to justify himself by creating another scandalous statement against Mordecai. And he didn't know that at the time that the king went to bed that night and he read the book of remembrance, and it was brought to him that Mordecai had done something for him. So he like, I owe this guy what was done for him. And it was like, well, nothing had been done for this dude. So he calls Haman in, asks Haman, what do you think we should do about this situation? Haman, in his pride, thinking that he's the one that's about to be anointed, tells the king, yeah, man, make a big spread, go get the royal horses, the royal garments, parade them through the city, let everybody see them, this, that, and the third. And he said, you know what? That's a perfect idea. Do just that, but bestow all of that up on Mordecai the Jew. Now, this inflamed the dude. His wife done already got in his ear, told him to build a gallows. So he done already convicted and pretty much spiritually done already murdered off Mordecai. His wife gave him the plans to do the gallows, so the gallows were built and everything. So if we speed forward, his plan backfired on him. He had to take all those royal mentions that he spoke of, bestow it up on who at that time he perceived to be his most hated, nemesis, all right? And his plan to kill off Israel was foiled at the same time. So now, as we move forward, we at the point where he's begging Esther to spare him. All right? So we're going to start off, we're going to pick up from chapter 7, and we're going to come in at verse 8. We ended at 6 yesterday, so verse 6. So we're going to come in at verse 8. Okay. Whereas this cat, the king was so enraged with him when he found out how he been played by his right-hand man that he had to kind of walk it off a little bit. Leaves this dude with Esther. He's still begging and pleading and following her around like a little puppy dog. Esther goes to her room. This cat kind of falls out all over the bed begging her. The king happens to walk in and think he trying to rape her. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so he's pretty much making the situation worse for itself. So we're going to run through these precepts, man, and go from there. So we're going to start at verse 8.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 7, and verse number 8. Yeah. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman...
Salakia, because other part of the setup was that Esther was trying to get him to the place where she can expose him. So she said, let's throw a big banquet so I can show respect to the king and to Haman, right? Not knowing that it was really a setup to get him there so that he can face, the music for what he had tried to plot. Because prior to that, when he got discovered, the man kind of put his hood on and took off running through the city, hurrying up home. Pissed off, crying to his wife and everybody about how he just got played. And he was trying to hide because of the shame. But he had to come back to face that shame when he came to this banquet. Right?
Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was, and said, the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoke good for the king standeth in the house of Haman.
Just reminding him. In other words, he telling him this dude need to be hung. Right? We already know this man been lying and bearing false witness all over the place, and now he done got caught laying in the queen's bed. It's over with for this dude. Get that same gallows that he built bogusly and do something with him with.
And that the gallows was 50 cubits high. That's 75 feet. So he was gonna have him swing.
His neck his head might have popped off his damn head from that drop. You know what I'm saying? That's a long drop.
Low hanging fruit.
Right. Then the king said, hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Right. Only because now you got to put yourself in that king's position. Like this dude is the second in command. It's like if the king, it never spoke to whether he had children or not. So, but the scripture said that he was second in command. So if the king was to fade out, he would have been.
10 sons,
no, I'm talking about the king, Ahaz. Haman was the second in command according to the scripture. So if the king was to get knocked off, he was going to become the king. Right? He trusted this dude. You didn't use me to bring an unrighteous hit out on a whole nation of people, man. Right. That did nothing to you. All because, now if you really put it in context, you did that because they came to tell me that you and your 2 guards were plotting to kill me.
Right.
That's a hell of a slap in the face. Now you and this boy on my queen's bed, kill him. like David said, fall on his neck.
Right.
Go start at verse 8, 1 and 2.
This is chapter 8, Esther chapter 8 and verse number 1. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
So that just goes
that power.
See that? Transfer. It's just like what we getting ready to go through right now. We were speaking to it yesterday. the calamity that he sought to bring upon Israel would have been considered Jacob's trouble back then. Right?
These the Persians, right?
Yeah, and the Medes. Right? This is the same thing that we're really prepping for right now, them Jacob's trouble. The more that we rise up right now, and the more that we wake our people up around this world, we see Esau's kingdom crumbling. That's ushering in with expedience Jacob's trouble up on us.
God.
All right?
And another thing, you could light him like Haman to the Edomites that's accusing us, because they're gonna falsely accuse the brethren. You know what I'm saying? We're going out there teaching, they're gonna try to bring us up on bogus charges like Haman. So they're gonna be destroying. The Most High gonna do that. It ain't gonna be no Persian or me that's gonna do that. It's gonna be the Most High. He gonna strip them. You know.
If you pay attention to Israel, you'll see that there has already been accounts of camps being accused. You know what I'm saying, by Esau and them.
I want to say one thing. Well, with this law they call saying we anti-Semitic, that's already like an accusation right there. Already that we anti-Semitic.
So if you put it in context to the Jew Israel.
That's right. That's coming up. That's coming up.
Right.
Yeah, that's coming up.
If you take this account and kind of analyze it with stories from before, right? This Haman is just like his predecessor, just like Esau, right? You accused Jacob of stealing the blessing, but you sold it to him. You forget to mention that part.
Didn't mention that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was prophecy that the elder was gonna serve the younger, so you could get the blessing, you can get the birthright back all you want. We still gonna be over you.
That's an inheritance of ours.
You know?
So they tried to accuse him in the same exact way. It's the same thing over and over again. Right? The Lord likens his judgment unto a ring. Right? As he said in 2nd Ezra 5:42.
Right, so the kingdom was handed over to them. The same kingdom that you once ruled over and sought to destroy Israel, now Israel rule over it. So much to the soul that they were given power under that ring, that anybody that even spoke ill of an Israelite, they had a right to kill him. Exactly what he sought to do was turned against them.
Right.
All right? Drop down to 5.
Verse number 5. And said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see that the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? And Salakia, that's a cut for what you were saying. They was trying to say, it doesn't say her nation. She just claimed her people right there.
We'll go back, Ken. You said when they said,
Because the brother said that.
Verse 6.
The brother said that people try to say, hey, it doesn't explicitly say her nation, but she's claiming her nation as Israelites and even closely Jews also.
yeah, I like that.
Right. Verse number 7. And King Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you, in the king's name, to seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse.
So pretty much it's self-explanatory. Everything has now did a 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. All right.
Literally, 180.
The kingdom has pretty much been handed over to Israel at this point. Right. The key thing, and that one of the key things about that is that they showing you is that the power that the Israelites have when they in order with the Lord, the Most High always gonna fight for us. Right. Just like when we read with Nicanor, well, how Judas stood before those armies and decreed to the brothers, hey, we got the Most High on our side. There's nothing to shut up a few in our hands. right? Nothing they can come against us will prosper as long as we're in order. And all the heathen knew that. So we trip on how this cat seemed to didn't remember that. That is like if you take in the accounts of the heathen before him, like we required to, seek the past, he'd have known that they in order. They not bothering nobody. They not breaking no law at this time. So to come against them was catastrophic for him.
It was like it was his emotions. Like the Most High made him do that.
His pride.
Yeah.
Because from the very start, when he walked up on that stairwell and everybody bowed down to him, Mordecai told him, I'm not bowing down to you.
And then that's in the Jews' law not to do that. So
Exactly.
Right.
He did it to himself.
So he went and called us evil. He said that the keeping of the Lord's laws was evil, and that we were a wicked nation of people,
Right.
who laws. What did he call them? He said something about our laws in contrary to the king's laws. Basically, like their laws, they're going to keep their laws versus yours. Like if our laws were some form of a perverseness against their wicked ways, right? Call them good evil.
That's a lot, you. Real quick, right? This is the book of Esther, chapter 11, right? And verse number 5. That's in the Apocrypha, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? Additions to Esther.
This is Esther.
Chapter 12 and verse number 5. Right? And this is part of the letter that was written by Hamas, right? In the
You said
king's
11 and
name.
5, so like 11 and 5.
12 and 5.
12 and 5.
13 and 5, Salakia.
13, yeah.
Yeah, 13 and 5. Right? It says, just to the brothers